Welcome to Kendall's Fantasy Preview Week 10. I'm here with Andrew Williamson, and we're going to break down a few guys and give you a few tips on some guys to start and some guys to sit this week. And I'm going to begin with some of the guys that I think you might want to take a look at to start, beginning with Devin Hester. He's been used a lot this year and last as a flex option, but he's flown a little bit under the radar. He's been very consistent all season. 6 for 94 last week. He's been putting up similar numbers almost every week. He's going against a San Fran defense that's surprisingly giving up over 240 yards per game through the air. So I think he might have another big day. Another guy that you might want to look out for, albeit he's probably starting in most leagues, but you probably drafted him as a backup to start, which is Brett Favre. And if you had a combo of him with McNabb or some other really great starter, Favre has a great matchup this week at home. I don't care who your other quarterback is, you start him against Detroit at home. Another guy who's a great flex option for you who you might not think about starting, Jonathan Stewart. He has over 200 yards receiving and rushing in the last 2 weeks. He scored 2 touchdowns. Over the last 3 weeks, he scored 2 touchdowns and going against the number 23rd ranked run defense in Atlanta at home. So I think he's a pretty good flex option if you have him on your team. And another guy to look out for would be Braylon Edwards. Since getting to New York, he's had a good groove with Sanchez. They're at home coming off a bye, playing against Jacksonville defense that's given up 242 yards a game and 15 touchdowns through the air. So I think he might have a pretty big week.
I like Steve Breston a lot on my start list. He's having a great year. A very good receiver down there in Arizona. I think Kurt Warner is having a good year, but also Anquan Bolden is out. They've got a very nice matchup with Seattle coming in at home. I like Breston. I like the way he's playing. I look for him to score once, maybe even twice. And you also never know who could go off on that Arizona offense. And which another team with a favorable matchup this week, and the rest of my stardom list, play any Miami Dolphins. They're playing Tampa Bay. They're at home. They're opening up their offense. It's the first week in a while that they haven't been playing a powerhouse NFL team, and I look for them to start throwing the ball more. So if you have a Ronnie Brown or if you have a Ricky Williams, this is the week to play him. If you need a quarterback, if your quarterback's on a bye, you might look at Chad Henne or a Brian Hartline if you're in a deep league and looking for a third receiver. I think they'll look to open it up and put some points up on the Bucs at home. Taking into the sit-em list, I'm going to start off with Jamal Lewis. Biggest reason he plays for the Browns, which means you're probably not starting him already.
Which is a pretty good reason.
If you were looking for a week to not start him, it's this week against the Ravens. They're angry about Cedric Benson gashing him 2 weeks in a row. I'd be surprised if he cracked 50 yards, to be real honest. Also, Santana Moss. He's playing a Denver defense that is very solid in the air with Ty Law newly joining. Have not allowed much of anything through the air, have some turnovers, picks for touchdowns, and he'll be playing without Clinton Portis on his side, which the Redskins' offense was one-dimensional before. I think Denver's going to overload on Moss, and you're not going to see much out of him for the game. And finally, Cedric Benson. I know he's been putting up a lot of numbers, even on a stingy Ravens defense, but he hasn't seen anything like he's going to see in Pittsburgh. The way those linebackers are hitting, that defense is hitting. I think if Cincinnati wins this game, they're going to take it through the air, not on the ground.
Yeah, I agree on Benson entirely. That Pittsburgh defense is really starting to play well. A few other guys you might want to think twice about. Any one of the Dallas running backs, albeit Marion Barber, Choice, and Jones. Any one of those three. Green Bay is flying under the radar, only giving up 3 touchdowns on the ground this season, ranked number 2 in the NFL. Also really good on yardage again on the ground. Dallas is probably going to open it up, utilize the 3 receivers. Roy Williams looked a little better last week. Creighton looked pretty good. They still have Miles Austin. They're going to be passing the ball a lot in that game. Another guy that you might want to stay away from, who's usually a starter, is Zach Miller at tight end. He's had a great season, and he's the only person that Russell can throw the ball to. But Kansas City shut him down earlier this year. They've shut down Brent Selleck. They've shut down Jason Witten. Earlier they already shut him down. I expect them to do the same and key on him. Oakland won't be able to get him the ball. He shouldn't have a very big game. And another guy, not saying you have to bench him, but Brandon Marshall, you have to bring your expectations down a bit. He's going to play a Washington defense that's number 1 in the league against the pass.
Very surprisingly.
Surprisingly, in Washington, and they've been able to clamp down, only giving up 7 touchdowns through the air in 8 games this season. And with a couple other guys, Eddie Royal and a few other guys getting touches, I think they'll do a good job of keying on him, keeping him out of the end zone. So you can't bench Marshall, but you don't expect one of those 132 touchdown games from him this week.
Although you never know, he's a freak.
He is.
He could do it.
But
Don't
just
bench him, but
don't bench him, but you just bring your expectations down a little bit. Well, that's going to do it for Kendall's preview on fantasy preview for this week in Week 10. If you want to check out our picks, you can go to AmericanSportsDaily.com.blogspot.com, or take a look at us on YouTube on This Week in the NFL for Week 10. And that we shall see you next week.
There you go.